Hey guys, welcome to our home office, which we converted into a YouTube studio / home office. And we created the space with the intention of making it easier to create content. And so that includes having setups that stay where they're at, so it's easy to just turn everything on and start recording. In addition, this is where all of the planning and editing happens. And so there's a lot that goes into this small room, and I hope that there's something you guys can take away for your own YouTube studio or home office. And I think the best place to start is with the main video setup that we use for a lot of our videos. So if you watch our YouTube channel, this is a talking head shot that you see most of the time. If you have the intention of shooting videos in your home office, you always want to start with, how do you want your main shot to look? How do you want the framing to look? What background do you want? What particular wall of the home office do you want to shoot against? And then after you figure that out and you figure out your framing, then you can decorate everything, set up the rest of the office the way that is specifically tailored to that main shot. So an important part of our setup is this tabletop. And there are a couple of reasons why I really like having this in the shot. The first reason is that I feel like it frames up everything really well. It also looks really good because if we're having a waist up shot, it'd be weird if I didn't have anything in front of me in the foreground, and also a place to place my hands. And when you have your hands like this, it's an easy way to be able to use your hands when you're talking instead of just having them down like this awkwardly. It's also very practical for having products and other props to have on top of it. So for example, if I'm doing a camera review or a lens review, I can have that item here. And if I'm doing an editing video, I can have my keyboard and my mouse right here to easily, show what I'm doing, and just adds a little bit to the shot. So I actually used to have my main desk all the way up against the wall. And to get this shot where it was waist up and it had a tabletop in front of me, I would actually bring in another desk and put it in front of this one. And I would mount my camera to this desk that was up against the wall so that it was far enough. And looking back, it was just really impractical and it didn't look that good. And so what we did is we simply just pulled this desk a few feet away from the wall, which was Rebecca's idea and a great idea. And now we get this shot like this. And so now instead of mounting our camera to our desk, we've now set up our camera on this light stand for an all-in-one video setup. So to mount our camera, we're using an impact super clamp that we clamped onto our light stand. And from there, there's a 6-inch extension arm. And on top of that, there's a ball head. And finally, on top of that is our A7S III with a Viltrox 24mm 1.8. If you're shooting in a smaller room like this one, this is a 10x10 room, I suggest shooting with a wider angle lens like a 24mm or a 20mm, because then you're gonna be able to get more in your frame and it's gonna make the room look a lot bigger. And when your wide angle lens has a really low aperture like this one, which is a 1.8, you're still gonna be able to get that nice background blur, that background separation, even though I'm only like 5 feet away from that back wall. Anyone who shoots YouTube videos or any type of long form videos know that it takes a long time to shoot. And so you're running through batteries very quickly. And that's just really annoying if you don't have some type of other solution. And so what we've done is we actually use a V-mount battery to power our camera, and we're just using another super clamp on the light stand to hold it. So now we don't have to worry about battery life at all. And if you don't have a V-mount battery, a lot of the modern cameras today have a USB-C port that you could just plug directly into the wall, and you don't have to worry about battery life anymore if you do that. At the top of our light stand, we've attached an extension pole so that we can boom over our shotgun microphone, which is the Deity V-Mic D3 Pro, and that's plugged straight into the camera. So up to this point, you've been listening to the Rode Wireless Go 2s, which are connected to the other camera. And for a lot of YouTubers and other creators, if you want an all-in-one solution, I feel like these microphones are a really great option. But if you're gonna be shooting at a specific setup in your office where it's stationary, I think that booming a microphone overhead actually sounds better and just sounds a lot more natural, especially if you have a good mic like the Deity. So just to give a quick example of the difference in sound between the Wireless Go 2s and the Deity microphone, here's a quick test showing the difference between them. I'll switch back and forth, and you could tell that there's a little bit of a difference, but again, they both sound really good and you can't go wrong with either one. So everything on this light stand creates a really nice all-in-one rig for our video and our audio, but everything would look really bad if we didn't have lighting. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of lighting in this setup. To start, we're going to talk about our key light, which is the Godox VL300. So you definitely do not need a light that is this powerful. If you watch our other lighting videos, you'll see that I've used lights that are under 150, even lighting setups that are under $90, and it looks really great. So there are a lot of solutions for lighting, but there are some lighting principles that you have to get right if you're going to use cheaper or smaller lights. And so one of the most important things that you want to do with any light is you want to make it larger. And so there are two different ways that you can make it larger. The first is that you want to be able to attach some kind of diffusion to that light. And so with our Godox VL300, we have a light dome that's about 34 inches wide. And what this does is, instead of having that small chip being the light, which is going to make, if I just use that small light source from that small chip on the light, it's going to be very narrow, and it's going to make your lighting very harsh shadows. And so when you put a softbox like this, the light source is now actually the light dome. And so you're getting this larger light source that's going to create much softer shadows. But if I had this light with this large light dome on it and I pushed it 10 to 15 feet away from me, it's not going to be this good. It's not going to look this soft, because the light that will eventually hit my face is going to be a lot narrower and thus creating harsher shadows. And so what you want to do is you want to, whatever light you're using, you want to bring it as close as possible to your face without it actually being in the shot. And now in proportion to your face, the light is much larger. So one other important thing to note about our softbox is that we have the honeycomb grid on top of it. And what grids do on your softbox is it makes your light more directional, and it controls the spill of the light. If I had it off, this light would just fill the whole entire room. And what that would do to the lights in the background is that it would dilute the color and the saturation. So now to talk about all these other lights that you see in the shot. Over my right shoulder are two Nanlite PavoTube 30C lights that are hanging on some mounted screws. And on the opposite side is an LED lamp that I took off the base and command stripped to that corner. So with all three of these lights, I'm helping to bring background objects into the shot. They're also helping to raise the overall ambience so it doesn't look so dark in here. And they're also helping to frame up the shot with these nice vertical lines. And our last light is the Aputure B7C, which we actually have over my left shoulder. And right now it's at a 2700 Kelvin to match that LED lamp over there. What we do a lot of the times is we turn it to red so that it can mimic a tally recording light, just to add a little bit of a touch, just to show that we're in a recording studio. What's really cool about all these lights in the background is that they're RGB lights, and so we can change them to all these mixtures of different colors and all these different types of looks. And for some texture in the background and also for some sound treatment, we have these sound panels on that wall. Another option for lighting in this room is to use the natural light. So when it's an overcast day, or I'm shooting at a time where the sun's not changing its position a lot, like when it's high up in the sky around noon, then we could just open up the windows and then we could turn off all these backlights, but keep our key light on just to light me up nicely. When it comes to monitoring myself, I'm using the Monitor Plus app on my iPhone, which is such an amazing tool because you're not just getting a wireless monitor, but you're also getting a really high quality screen to monitor yourself on. It also allows me to control all of my settings wirelessly, so I can change my exposure, change up my white balance, and it also allows me to start and stop recording. Before I move on from this area, I'm going to talk about the desk setup. So this is the Fazebo 63-inch sit-stand desk that I bought off of Amazon. And what's great about this desk is that it's really inexpensive. I believe I bought it for under $300, and it does exactly what I need to do. I just wanted it to be a large surface that allows me to stand up if I want to. My editing / do-it-all computer is an original M1 MacBook Pro that's spec'd out, and it's really fast and reliable, especially since I use Final Cut Pro for editing. To keep a really small footprint, I use an Anker USB-C hub that allows me to connect an external monitor, USB-C drives, and my memory cards. The monitor that I use is a 27-inch Asus Art, and I consider getting an ultra-wide monitor or even dual monitors, but really a 27-inch monitor by itself is more than enough. And to have more desk space and to keep it even less cluttered, I have it mounted to a standard desk swing arm. And this makes it easy to move it out of the way when I'm recording, but I can still have it to the side to reference my notes while I'm recording. And to keep with the black and gray minimal look, I'm using a Logitech MX Master 3 mouse and then a Bluetooth Mac Ally keyboard. Aside from the laptop, this is a very inexpensive desk setup. It's also clutter-free and minimal, which was my main goal. The other main part of our office is our overhead rig station. Since we shoot a lot of gear videos, we wanted a dedicated spot where we could easily shoot good looking product shots. Everything is centered around this old IKEA kitchen cart. And what's nice is that it doubles as storage for small camera parts. The device that actually allows me to boom my camera overhead is the Ulanzi desk mount clamp. I was using this on my desk as my main video rig setup. I would mount my camera on a super clamp and then clamp that to the pole, and I would use the extension arm to boom my microphone overhead. But ever since I found a video rig that I like more, this Ulanzi desk mount clamp has just been sitting in the closet, but now it's found a new home on this IKEA kitchen cart. At the end of the extension arm is a newer ball head, which actually is necessary for allowing me to angle the camera down and also for getting the perfect level. The camera that we used is the Sony a7S III, which is probably more than we need for these type of shots, but it just looks so good because of the colors and the dynamic range. The lens that we used is the Tamron 28-75 f2.8, which is the perfect type of lens for these type of shots because you can easily go from wide to tighter shots. Plus that f2.8 aperture allows for more shallow depth of field shots if you want to get them. When it comes to shooting YouTube videos, you can run through normal camera batteries pretty quickly, and I'm always forgetting to charge them. So what I do now is I use V-mount batteries, which I only have to charge about once a week, and now I don't have to worry about battery life. I could just run power directly from an outlet, but I don't want the long cords running around, and this is just a lot cleaner. And now let's talk about the surface / backdrop. Most of the time, I'm using an IKEA pegboard in this natural wood tone. I think that the pattern, color, and texture add a lot to the shot and make it look really nice. And I actually want to get another pegboard so that I can spray paint one side white and the other black just for more options. I just haven't gotten around to it. And so in the meantime, what I do to get more backdrops is I use construction paper. In the storage underneath, I keep a bin of a bunch of different colors of construction paper for a wide variety of backdrops. And what's great about using construction paper is that the texture is non-glare. And so you get this really nice, seamless, and clean look, the same that you would get with seamless paper on a roll down backdrop when you're shooting subjects. One thing about this kind of setup is that you can only really shoot smaller items, which is fine with me because the things that I would shoot are usually smaller or would only require tighter shots. But if I wanted to shoot something like a large light, a camera case, or a bag, it wouldn't fit on here. One of the most important factors when it comes to getting quality top-down shots is lighting. I keep this really simple but effective by using my key light setup that I also use for a lot of my talking head videos. I simply swing the light over and place it at a 45-degree angle pointing down and directly to the side of the kitchen cart. The light that we use is the Godox VL300, which is overkill for this setup because I never need more than about 20% of the output. And on top of it is a 34-inch softbox. For a surface this small, a 34-inch softbox is plenty big, and so it produces a really nice soft light. And with the angle that it's at, it creates a really nice gradient from one side to the other, and it lights it up really well, creating a lot of dimension, but not having any harsh shadows. When I do want it to be a little bit more evenly lit, I'll either bring in a bounce or a small tube light to fill in the shadows. And when it's a nice sunny day, I'll open up the windows and use the natural light to bring in more ambient light and to help fill in those shadows, or sometimes I'll just use the natural light by itself. What's a flat lay or a top-down shot without the props and set design? This is one of the most fun parts of shooting top-down because you can really get creative and enhance your shots. All the props that I use are either inside the cart, on top of the cart, or on the shelves above. I use things like fake plants, camera tools, vintage lenses, hard drives, and anything that looks good and or is related to whatever the main object is that I'm shooting. If you're wondering how I can even tell what I'm shooting looks good, I'm using the Monitor Plus app on my iPhone, which is awesome because iPhones have great quality screens, and I can control all my camera settings with the app, including starting and stopping recording. So except for when I need to zoom in and out on the lens, I can avoid touching my camera and potentially messing up the framing. The last thing that I want to talk about in this office space is the other talking head setup that we use in some of our other videos, and you just saw it when I was talking about the overhead rig. Now this isn't always set up and it takes a little bit more work to get everything going and start recording, but I do it because I really like it. And so in this closet right here is where we store all of our extra gear. It's also where we have our charging station, which I'm not gonna show you because it's not impressive at all. It's really a mess, but we keep our other setup in here. And it simply is just this tripod, which you keep at the perfect height for that setup. And then this really cheap Mount Dog lighting kit. And I recently made a video about this $81 kit that comes with 2 lights, and it really shows you how good of a lighting setup you could do with something really, really cheap. And so if you want to watch that video, it's linked below in the description. But I'm really surprised by how good of a light you can get from this setup. And all I simply do is throw my A7S III on here. I either use the Rode Wireless Go 2s for my audio, or I use the VMic D3 Pro and just throw it on top of here. Since I'm so close to the camera, it still picks it up really nicely. And that's pretty much it. And it still keeps it really clean and clutter-free because I can simply just put it away in the closet. If you're interested in any of the items that I talked about in this video, all the links are in the description below. And if you want to take a deeper dive into some of the lights I use and how to use them, click this playlist right over here, and I'll see you over there. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.